Hello and welcome back to Exploring Chat. Today I am recapping last year actually, and I'm going to share some more about the Cornbread Festival. I did a Cornbread Festival video last year after I went to the festival for the first time. It is a very broad overall what we did during the day, which was a very full day. And if you haven't watched that yet, I recommend watching it. It's linked below, and it'll also be linked at the end of this video. But in that video, I mentioned twice that I was going to do another video about the Cornbread Festival, so I feel like I should do what I said I was going to do. So here is that other video. And I just wanted to go a little more in depth on two of the activities that are very popular to do at the Cornbread Festival, which might not be what you expect. So they always do a historic neighborhoods tour. So if you're not familiar, National Cornbread Festival is held in South Pittsburg, Tennessee, and it is a very old small town, very industrial. You've probably heard of Lodge Cast Iron. That's where it is from. And so there's a lot of like old historic buildings, churches, and houses, including like the Lodge family, their house, and like their relatives, their houses and stuff, and some other very prominent people. I wanted to share a little more on that because I just like barely touched on it in the other video. So I'm going to show you a little more of what like the tour is like to give you an idea. And they say the tour is different every year, so it's worth going every time. And then I'm also going to share a little more of the Lodge factory tour, which technically it's called a foundry, not a factory, and that is where they make the cast iron. Now last year they did the tour in the old factory, or the old foundry, which is on 6th Street, and this year it's going to be the one on 3rd, which is the new one. It just wasn't ready last year, so they couldn't do it then, but this year it's going to be in the new one, so it'll be a little bit different, but same idea. They kind of walk you through everything on how they make the cast iron, which is pretty cool. I'm going to stop talking now and we're going to go ahead and just kind of jump right in to the historic neighborhood store, and then we'll kind of roll into the Lodge Cast Iron Foundry tour. This was worth every $8 for the AC alone. I was told it's a 45-minute tour. I don't know if they meet here every year, but it's the old city hall, and the tour is different every year. So it's worth doing it every year because they go through different areas, tell you about historical buildings and stuff.
The Joseph Lodge home, it was built in 1877. Joseph Lodge was 28 years old when he came to South Pittsburg in 1876. He served in many capacities, including as the mayor of South Pittsburg. His greatest contribution was establishing Lodge Manufacturing Company, the old English company headquarters house. It was built in 1875. The primary use was for a meeting with for guests and for visitors, but not for a residence. The Burke Cook family renovated the building in 1922 for their home. Mr. Cook founded the South Pittsburg Coal Company. William Houston was a native of Bedford County, Tennessee. His wife, Hannah Richards, built this Queen Anne-style house on the right in 1889. In 1923, the property was purchased by the son of Joseph Lodge, Richard Leslie Lodge, for $6,500. Leslie Lodge was president of Lodge Manufacturing for 25 years.
He actually talked about this church, and it's funny, he said his grandmother used to live right next to the cemetery here at this church, and at one point he and his brothers accidentally set the cemetery on fire one summer. He said the grass was super high and they hadn't cut it in like forever. They were able to get the fire put out. Fire department had to come out and put it out and everything, but it's funny, a funny story. It's just cool to hear these things from like the locals' perspective. Like this guy that led the tour, he's a local, so he was able to share like personal stories as well as like the history of all these places because he actually knows it. I'm not sure if he always leads the tours or not, but I'm sure some well-knowing local does every year, so you can just tell these people live here, you know, like this guy who was born and raised in South Pittsburg, so it's really cool. But yeah, we just went after the tour, and you can still go to like all these places and check them out, which is pretty cool because a lot of like the churches have, and like some of the other historic buildings have these plaques in front of them, so you can read more about the history on them if you're really interested in that. And I just think it's cool how this town is still like alive and active, and yet it's still like a historic town, and they're preserving their history and they're proud of it, and rightfully so. So these are a decorating contest they do with lodge employees, and they have it set up in their break room. That's where we're at. So now we are going to do the tour in the factory, which you can only do during the Cornbread Festival, and it is a self-guided tour, so you just go at your own pace. The factory's not running right now. So in the factory tour, like I said previously, this is the old factory, so the new factory is a little bit different. I haven't been in the new factory yet, so I don't know what it's like, but I'm sure the process is going to be very similar, where they're going to walk you through how cast iron is made, and it's pretty crazy. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. Honestly, I even thought it would be more basic than it actually is. I don't know why I thought that, but I did. But there's like so many processes it goes through, and it's really cool because the displays are very like, there's a video, so you can watch like the video on how it's made for each step of the process, but then there's also sometimes more like hands-on displays where you can kind of like see or feel like what some of the things might like feel like. Then of course there's like the displays of like what it would look like if it was actually working, but kind of like a paused frozen mode of it. Then there's also like the finished product and stuff, and it's really cool. And then there's also the collections of rare, like one-time made sort of cast irons that they've done throughout the years, different themes and different things. So those are pretty cool to see as well. So that pretty much sums up this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe so you don't miss any more Chattanooga content as far as like things to do in Chattanooga. I do a lot of hiking and outdoor stuff, as well as like unique Chattanooga attractions like this. So if you enjoy this stuff, definitely subscribe. And if you want more details on everything, I also have a blog post about it, which is linked below. So check that out. That'll give you all the details about like when, where, all the stuff that you need to know about the Cornbread Festival. And like I mentioned before, the overall Cornbread Festival video is also linked below and will also be at the end of this one. So definitely check that out if you missed it, so that you know what to expect. If you've never been to the Cornbread Festival before and you're wondering like what to do or what to expect, that's for you. And that's pretty much it. So I will see y'all next time. If you've never been to the Cornbread Festival oh goodness. If you've never been to the Cornbread Festival, if you've never been to the